Hi, kids and parents. Join me, Miss Megan, at Megan's Story Garden for another adventure of Frog and Toad are friends. And this story I'm reading today is called A Lost Button. And in this story, Toad is just completely ungrateful and dramatic and not very nice to his friend Frog. He actually kind of reminds me of a toddler who's throwing a fit because he doesn't get his way. Can you think of a time where you let your emotions get the best of you and just weren't so nice to the people around you? Well, let's find out if Toad learns to be grateful and thoughtful to those around him. Stay tuned.
A Lost Button from Frog and Toad Are Friends collection by Arnold Lobel. Toad and Frog went for a long walk. They walked across a large meadow. They walked in the woods. They walked along the river. At last, they went back home to Toad's house. "Oh, drat," said Toad. "Not only do my feet hurt, but I've also lost one of the buttons on my jacket." "Don't worry," said Frog. "We will go back to all the places where we walked. We will soon find your button." They walked back to the large meadow, and they began to look for the button in the tall grass. "Here's your button!" cried Frog. "That is not my button," said Toad. "That button is black. My button was white." Toad put the black button in his pocket. A sparrow flew down. "Excuse me," said the sparrow. "Did you lose a button?" "I found one." "That is not my button," said Toad. "That button has 2 holes. My button had 4 holes." Toad put the button with 2 holes in his pocket. They went back to the woods and looked on the dark paths. "Here's your button," said Frog. "That is not my button," cried Toad. "That button is small. My button was big." Toad put the small button in his pocket. A raccoon came out from behind a tree. "I heard you were looking for a button," he said. "Here is one I just found." "That is not my button," wailed Toad. "That button is square. My button was round." Toad put the square button in his pocket. Frog and Toad went back to the river. They looked for the button in the mud. "Here is your button," said Frog. "That is not my button. That button is thin. My button was thick." Toad put the thin button in his pocket. He was very angry. He jumped up and down and screamed, "The whole world is covered in buttons, and not one of them is mine!" Toad ran home and slammed the door. There, on the floor, he saw his white, 4-holed, big, round, thick button. "Oh," said Toad, "it was here all the time. What a lot of trouble I have made for Frog." Toad took all of the buttons out of his pocket. He took his sewing box down from the shelf. Toad sewed the buttons all over his jacket. The next day, Toad gave his jacket to Frog. Frog thought it was beautiful. He put it on and jumped for joy. None of the buttons fell off. Toad had sewed them all on very well.
After Toad stomped all the way back home and then stopped and saw his button sitting there on the floor, he realized that he was not being a very good friend or being very grateful for all the help he got, even from the others around him. Do you remember the other 2 characters that were there that helped him? Yes, it was the sparrow and the raccoon. But eventually, Toad did realize he needed to be more grateful, especially to his friend Frog. So that's why he took all those buttons that they had found on their journey to find his button and then sewed it onto his jacket and then gave that cute jacket to Frog as appreciation and to show his gratitude. So, just like Toad eventually learned, we have to stop and not let our emotions or our frustrations get the best of us. And we have to remember that it's going to be okay because we have people around us that love us. So, if you enjoyed the story today, click that like and subscribe button so that you know for the next time there's a new story and a new lesson. Thank you for listening and joining Megan's Story Garden, and I will see you next time. Bye for now.